Hey, I'm Matt from Savaria Studios, and today we're going to be talking about when your band should be looking into going on tour. This is like one of those fundamental questions that a lot of bands I work with come to me with, because, quote, touring is the best, which you're entitled to that opinion. You're kind of wrong, but I get it. I think that ultimately what a lot of bands don't seem to realize is that touring is a huge time and resource commitment. In as much as you're spending a lot of money to go on tour, be it for gas, food, to buy merch in advance, all that stuff, and you're not going to be able to work, so you're not drawing a salary. So basically, a lot of bands go on tour, and it just kind of ends up being a glorified vacation, and then they come back and they wonder why they made no money, which sucks. And then they yell at people like me, like, oh, we went on tour and it was awful, and yeah. I think that there's a couple fundamental realities a lot of these bands don't seem to understand. I think first and foremost is that it takes time to set up a good tour. Personally, and I know not every band can do this, I like to set up tours 6 to 9 months in advance. Just because that way, when I book a tour 9 months in advance, I just did this with the band Wofat from Texas. We had a couple snafus a few months out, but because the tour had already been so locked down, the fact that 2 or 3 dates were fucking having hiccups wasn't a problem. And again, I know it's hard because work schedules and lifestyles change, but getting shit put together as far out as possible so you don't have to worry is the ideal. The other thing to be aware of is that there's a lot of scams in the touring industry because it's been so glorified. And so there's a lot of people who will try to tell you, oh, I can book you a tour in the next 6 weeks. They technically probably can, but you're probably going to play shitty dive bars the entire time, Unless you have a booking agent who really knows what he's doing, it's easy to kind of get screwed and play, shitty venues in the middle of nowhere and have an awful time. And I think that a good way to avoid this is to be actually worth money and actually worth promoters coming out to see you, right? A good barometer that a couple of my promoter friends use is that if you can't draw 50 people at home, then you probably shouldn't be touring. Which I know sounds like a tall order, but if you look at your average 5-piece band, for example, that's just each of you trying to get 10 of your friends to pay $10 to see your band. And if you're playing so often or so poorly that people don't really want to see that, you need to reevaluate your priorities. I do appreciate that some cities just don't have a scene, and that's certainly an issue, but I think even then, in most cases, there's a city relatively near you that you should be building a name for yourself in. Even if you're from a smaller suburb, find that big city within 2 or 3 hours and try to own that scene. This actually ties into what I wanted to kind of close this video out with, which is my 12 market theory, which admittedly is hard to apply everywhere in the United States and in Europe, but I live in the Northeast, so that's kind of how I generated it. Basically, the idea is if you know 12 promoters in 12 different markets, which is not a hard thing to do, you can play a 2-show weekend run every other weekend for 3 months without ever repeating a market. And therefore, you're avoiding the crime of oversaturating, because once you oversaturate, nobody gives a shit. So if you're able to spread out your performances in a given market to once every 3 months, first of all, you're still viewed as a regional badass, but you're also not losing out on your New York audience or your Philly audience or whatever. Obviously the first couple tours are rough for any band, but I think by gradually building, you're going to find a lot more potential than if you just hop in a van 2 weeks after forming your band and try to play a fucking 30-day tour. So thank you for watching. Like and comment or whatever it is in the year you're watching. Maybe it's a button that says yes. So yes. Please, we have a bunch more that are going to be coming out over the rest of the summer, so check them out. There'll probably be links that someone smarter than me is going to put here.